interrupt you?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Your audio is too low. Can you
Okay,
raise your
just a
voice?
minute.
Yes, sir. Audio range is very low.
Okay, just a minute, ma'am.
Thanks.
Okay, now it's okay, ma'am. Hello.
Yeah, I think it's okay, sir. Okay.
Okay, I'm not able to increase the voice. So,
It's okay, sir.
this is a traction chain. It will be taken from like a locomotive design. Here you can see the similar way I explained in the previous slide, like in component level. This is a single line diagram of a complete traction chain with the converter and inverter section. So this is a high voltage component. It will be installed inside the train, like a VCB, surge arrestor, and earthing switch, all those things. And this is a transformer which is installed most of the application. It is underslung under the bogie, means and underslung. And this is a traction converter which consisting of front end converter and inverter portion. And similar to the E block and section 1, section 2, and section 1 has the auxiliary converter which is fed DC fed auxiliary converter. So it will feed all your auxiliary load in the locomotive design, which can drive our blower and other auxiliary components of 415 volt AC. So it's a similar chain. It will be used for another section. For example, if it is a Bobo design, maybe the same kind of architecture will be repeated on the second section. So this is the voltage level for the locomotive and the auxiliary converter design. And for the catenary voltage, these are the voltage limit, and for AC 25 kV and 15 kV, and DC 750, DC 1500, 3000. And as per the standard, these are all the voltage limit. We can go with a permanent lowest side and non-permanent lowest side. These are the tolerances for a catenary system. And this is the tolerances for the auxiliary voltage limit. So here you can see like auxiliary converter can deliver plus 10% and minus 10% of voltage. And on the load side, depends on your load. It will be like tolerance can be decided, and for that we need to control this tolerances of auxiliary voltage. So, you have any doubts, you can just raise a question, or you can put it into the chat box. We can discuss, or else I'll go through. You can stop me at any point if you have any doubts or if you need any clarification. Can I proceed to next slide? Okay, I will
Yes,
go to the
sir.
next slide.
Yes, sir. You can
So,
go to next.
yeah, this is a hello. Hello. Even I'm hearing very less voice.
No, sir, you can proceed. That is what they are saying.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So this is the auxiliary load which will be used in most of the rolling stocks application. Based on the configuration, like a locomotive or metro or tram, it will be decided like whether it is needed or whether it is not needed. Some of the portion can be eliminated, some of the portion can be added. So this is a one line diagram, the pantograph and the accelerator converter. Maybe you have to consider here transformer and transformer winding feedback to your accelerator converter, everything. Here you see there are so many auxiliary loads which will be used inside the train. For example, room ventilation. Some of the locomotive has a driver cabin which has a cooking facility, and lighting. It is a most necessity things. And hatchback. Some of the locomotive, the driver cabin is with the AC air conditioning system, and socket it is needed for external application. And motor blower, it will be used in the traction converter portion. The compressor, it will be used for our complete braking system and other pneumatic circuit. And battery charger, it will be used for your to drive your control circuit of the locomotive or metro or tram. And pump depends on the application. It will be used to cool down your IGBT system and other application. The maybe transformer oil cooling system depends on the application. Whether it's a metro or a locomotive, based on the application, it will be decided. So this is a brief about auxiliary loads in the rolling stocks application. So here, these are the modes in auxiliary converter, maybe either in locomotive or either in metro and either in tram. So these are the conventional operating mode of auxiliary converter. So in this case, it will be best suited for metro application. I'll just walk through what are the modes in the auxiliary converter configuration. For example, take example of Chennai Metro. You can consider Chennai Metro as a 4-car configuration, and 2-car is a motor car and 2-car is a trailer car. You can consider 2 auxiliary converters are there in Chennai Metro, and if both auxiliary converters are working to drive all your internal auxiliary load like AC, air conditioning system, and sockets, and maybe your lighting and some of the audio system and the other necessity things for the loads. If it is both converter are operating, we would say that is a normal mode of operation. And it is quite normal for a train, and everybody in passenger, they will see the normal mode of operation. And this is like both battery charger, auxiliary converters are working. It is delivering 100% capacity. The second one, degraded mode. For example, you can consider out of 4-car, out of 2 auxiliary converter, 1 auxiliary converter, maybe it is isolated due to some fault condition. By the time the other auxiliary converter has to supply 4 cars. In this case, you cannot supply all loads. You have to choose a necessity load, or if you consider the 1 car has a 2 HVAC system or air conditioning system, you can consider half of the load. Maybe the 1 HVAC can work with the degraded mode. Like that, you have to consider. It's the same for the lighting application. Maybe if the cabin complete car is eliminated with the 100% lighting, maybe the degraded mode, it has to consider with the 50% lighting load. It's similar to other socket and other application. We have to consider the half capacity. We can provide full capacity provided your auxiliary converter is over designed, or if it depends on the customer requirement. We can decide if customer needs in degraded mode, they don't want to switch off any of the load and they want to work it as a normal mode, then we have to go for a oversizing the auxiliary converter. So that is a degraded mode. And the preconditioning mode, it is nothing but your metro is at your shed. Maybe you can consider the yard. Before starting the morning operation, the driver has to go and switch off all the auxiliary load in the driver cabin, and he has to ensure he's getting all the flow. Yeah, he has to ensure all the auxiliary systems are working, and he will make sure the cabin temperature, cabin pressure, everything is maintained, and he has to ensure the braking system, air compressor limitation, air compressor pressure inside that air compressor, everything has to ensure. For that, he will do the pre-check before getting to the track or before getting to the operation. He will do all kind of pre-check at the depot or at the yard. So we'll make sure the temperature inside the car is 18 degree or 19 degree before start the operation, maybe at the first station. So we will ensure and we will all the parameters before getting to the operation. So there is a preconditioning mode, and reverse mode. It is something due to some emergency condition. If train got isolated or any fault in the two accelerator converter. For example, in Chennai Metro, there are two accelerator converter. If in unavoidable situation, if both accelerator converter failed, you cannot drive the train. Maybe if it is stopped in maybe in the elevated route, I think we have to evacuate all the passengers safely. So if it is not possible, maybe it is due to safety constraint in most of the third rail system, the supply will be fed in the track near to the track. So most of the application, what they will do, like they will run the train till the nearest station and evacuate all the passenger. In this mode, your converter, both the converter is not working, and the power will be fed from the battery, and it will drive all the emergency ventilation system inside the car. And passenger should not get discomfort, maybe a breathing issue, or to avoid all those things. And they will supply all the emergency load, emergency ventilation fans till the next station arrive, and train will be pulled back if it is absolutely necessary. Maybe the another train will be called, and they will rescue the affected train to the nearest station. And the final one, it is a source supply mode. Maybe it will be checked in the depot when the train is done for the day or end of the day. It will go to the shed and they will check all the parameter, control everything before starting the operation and the end of the operation, both the time. Maybe morning they will do it everything, and even the night they will check all the parameter, and they will connect the external supply to the train, and they will operate all the auxiliary loads, and they will check the battery operation, battery healthiness, and all the parameter. So these are the modes of operation in auxiliary converter. You have any doubt, you can stop me or you can ping me to the chat. So this is the battery charger we are going to see today. This is a very compact converter. You can say this is you can say it's a tabletop model. It's a very compact design. As I said, before, like in auxiliary converter, there are two major category. The first one, based on your catenary system, if it is AC catenary, it's a AC fed auxiliary system. If it is a DC catenary, it will be DC fed auxiliary system. So this one is AC fed auxiliary system. Here you have to consider this 415 volt or 400 volt input is driven from that main transformer. I showed you in the first slide, the main transformer has 5 windings, 5 secondary winding, and with the 5 secondary winding, there are 4 windings it will be used for our traction converter, and the 5th winding it will be used for the auxiliary converter. So here you will get isolated power supply from the main transformer, and it will be fed through your precharge contactor to your front-end converter and front-end converter. This is a quite a simple configuration, and this is a front-end converter, and this is inverter configuration. After this inverter configuration, the sinus filter, it will go to your auxiliary load. Here, this is a circuit used to charge your battery. Here the DC is fed from the DC link, and this is a medium frequency inverter, and this is an isolation transformer and a rectifier portion which will charge your battery system. This is a simple AC fed auxiliary converter. Do you have any doubt in this circuit? Okay, if you have anything, just ping me in the chat. We can discuss. So this is a second configuration DC fed auxiliary system. If your catenary is a DC, for example, it is 1500 volt or 750 volt DC third rail system. What is your auxiliary converter architecture? This is the way it will look like, and it's quite similar to the previous one. And it's an input contactor with the pre-charge system, pre-charge circuit, and inverter, which has the transformer to secondary winding, and it will directly go to your auxiliary loads, and the second winding it will be used to charge your battery system. This is a simple architecture of the first configuration. And the second one, it is the most robust and most advanced one. It will be used for in most of the traction battery charging system. Here you can see it's a similar of your previous portion with a medium frequency inverter with a step up or a step down chopper with a medium frequency inverter, and rectifier portion and inverter with a sinus filter. And here it's the same as like you're getting your AC output from the medium frequency inverter and rectifying it, and you're charging your battery system, that is 110 volt. So you can see there are advantages and disadvantages of these two systems. For example, this case, this is the most conventional way of designing the auxiliary converter, and it will be more robust, and it will be like most conventional way, and it is less cost compared to this one, and maybe the space will be more because of the transformer core and transformer copper usages. And in this case, the control algorithm will be quite complex, and it will be the compact design, I would say, because you're not using the transformer here, and you're trying to avoid this is a medium frequency transformer, which will be the smaller than this one, and it is a very compact design, and and multiple mode of conversion. It will be slightly it is a more costlier than the previous one, but it is a more stringent way, or I would say it's a more controllable charging operation in this portion. So battery charger architecture. This is the architecture inside the battery charging system, and here you can see this is a DC fed auxiliary, DC fed catenary system. Here I consider the 1500 volt DC, which is a driving or a H bridge inverter. Hello. Yeah. This is a DC catenary system, and it will feed a DC 1500 volt DC, which will be fed to H bridge inverter, and this is a high frequency configuration. And here it's a normal diode rectifier, which converting into DC, and it is a 2-level inverter which will convert back to your auxiliary loads. And this is a charging circuit of your battery. This is a 2 charger used to charge your battery, that is 110 volt. Here we have used 2 charger because of customer requirement for redundancy. We are using 2 charger if one of the charger failed, and the other charger should charge the battery system. This is a specific requirement from customer, so we have designed with a redundant mode battery charging system. And this is a auxiliary inverter, I would say, because it will be used in your emergency mode, not on the normal mode of operation. This is a circuit. I will explain in the further slide how it is used and what are the modes of operation, how it will operate. And here it's a basic control algorithm. Here it is a DSP operated controller is used to drive all the power electronics components and all the control circuits. Any doubt in this architecture? Hello?
No, sir.
Okay, if someone has any doubt why you have to use this circuit and what is the use of this one? Yeah.
Sir, in the chat box, one question is there. What is the inductor sizing for this high voltage input?
This one, ma'am?
What is the inductor size?
You mean the value?
I think Kamesh Prakash. Can you
Yeah, yeah. Sir. Like, what will be the inductor sizing for this very high voltage input? Like the input side, you're giving 1500 volt DC, and you have an inductor.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Can you elaborate about that inductor?
Okay, here for the DC system, first of all, a DC system, why do we need an inductor or why do we need this circuit? Because we are getting this smooth DC voltage anyway from the catenary. Why do we need this inductor? First of all, what is the need for this inductor on the DC side? Do you have any idea? Okay, basically, what is the use of inductor? Why do we go for inductor? Inductor or filter circuit? Why do we go for inductor or why do we go for a filter circuit? In the electrical circuit, why do you use a filter or why do you use inductor?
Sir, actually to limit the current, actually fault current.
dI by dt. Okay.
Yeah, to limit the actually fault current.
Okay.
So actually, in that case, actually it limit the current, and it is also sometimes used for the input to ripple free the input current.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. It's a point is valid. So it is mainly on the high inductive side. If it is on the high inductive side, your upcoming the circuit will be protected. For example, you have the traction converter inverter portion. It will be like after the your catenary system. So you want to isolate or you want to protect your traction converter from the high current or current ripple. You have to go for a inductor, if irrespective of if it is AC or DC. So in DC system, as per the standard, it has to follow with some tolerances, but nevertheless it will be used based on your customer requirement and the application. So here it is a pre-charge system, and the inductor will be decided based on your DC link capacitor and complete charging circuit, like a RLC circuit. It will be depends on your inverter capacitor, DC link capacitor value. Also, it depends on your voltage and depends on your converter current rating and the ripple rating and THT value, and it will be decided. We will simulate with this configuration and we will arrive this inductor value, whether it is a high frequency application or a normal normal sinus filter, or this is a normal DC choke. It depends on your input capacitor and DC link voltage level and charging system and charging characteristics. We will decide this one. It is based on the simulation. It will be done in the MATLAB and some of the STEM software tool we will be using before selecting the hardware design. It will vary based on the application, based on the voltage level, based on the converter which we choose. For some of the converter, the capacitor is not. For example, all the Alstom product line, the capacitor, DC link capacitor may not be the same. So based on this charging circuit, we will design this. We have the dedicated tool, and even we have some calculation sheet to calculate this inductor. Is this answer to your question?
So again, few more questions.
Yes, ma'am.
From Shah Jainam, for 110 volt DC, why we choose? Why we use two-stage conversion? Can't get directly by using buck converter?
This one, ma'am.
For 110 volt.
Previous one.
Yeah.
Previous one or this slide or previous slide, ma'am?
I think Shah Jainam.
You're talking
Yes,
about
yes,
these
sir.
two.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I
This
think you
is
said
one
for
only.
Yeah.
For 110 DC output, why we use two-stage? We can't directly data from DC input.
Okay. You mean to say like directly from here? Directly from this DC link?
Directly from
by chopper.
DC. Yeah, chopper.
By chopper, and you can charge the system.
Yeah, by chopper or yeah, by buck converter.
Okay. Like first thing here, this is a DC link voltage, and with the chopper circuit, the chopper circuit is not advanced to charge the battery. The battery you have to consider your dV by dt rate and the current rating and voltage level for each charging state. So for that, we are using two levels of charging system. It is a redundant, as I said before, is a redundant converter. It is customer specific. If some customer they will ask single charger to charge our battery, maybe the charger capacity or power rating will go high. In this case, I would say this charger is maybe 10 kilowatt, and this is a 10 kilowatt. So put together, it is a 20 kilowatt system, and if customer needs a single charger to charge the battery system, you will go for 25 kilowatt or 30 kilowatt based on the next design, available design. So it is in specific design for the customer. If one of the charger is failed, I don't want to lose my train all the auxiliary loads. So the other charger can charge the battery, and it will survive until the next station. Also, this charger is quite. I don't say it's a similar to chopper circuit. It is basically it is a DC to DC, but it is not internally. If you see the architecture, it is not like a chopper circuit. It is not like buck converter, or it is the internal architecture will be different than the buck converter. Does it answer to your question?
Yes, sir. And I have said if we directly use from 1500 watt DC by using buck converter to 110 watt, but why we use the DC to AC and DC to AC? The conversion, the number of conversion increases, efficiency will reduce now.
Okay, yeah, I got your intention. Look, okay, for example, if you using the directly taking the voltage from catenary and your charging system, you have to consider what is your device rating. It is similar to the inverter device. If you are converting the 1500 into AC, and again it is somewhere it is 680 volt. Maybe if you are designing the power electronics component for 680 volt here, it is not exactly same what are the components used here. Here it is 1500 volt DC. Maybe your device rating will be 4.5 kV or 6.5 kV. Depends on the voltage tolerances derived by supplier. Maybe if Umax permanent voltage will be somewhere 17.5 or 19.5 kilovolt, then definitely I have to go for 6.5 kilovolt device. So it is a complication. The complication also it is a added cost to your system and more complex to control it.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Is there any other question before moving to the next slide? Okay, I'll move to the next one. Maybe you can discuss if anything is there. We can. Okay, this is a firing pattern which will be used for a battery charging converter. Here there are 4 switches. Just I'll go to the previous slide. This is 2 half bridge inverter. You can consider here Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, or QA, QB, QC, QD. A similar way for the bottom inverter as well. And this is a firing pattern which will be used for the this high frequency inverter configuration. Here you can see the QA, QB is 180 degree phase shift. Similar to the QC and QD, it is 180 degree phase shift. And you can see QA and QD will be switched on in this blue portion. And here they are maintaining the 50% of duty cycle for this first one cycle, and the second cycle. If you are varying the duty point to more than 50%, you could see what is the variation in the output voltage. Here it is more on like a 2-level voltage output, and you can see the output amplitude or output voltage how it is varying with respect to your duty cycle of the switches. If it is operating more than 80% of the time, then you will get more output voltage. And if it is 50%, you will get a proper square wave kind of thing. And this is a current waveform with respect to your voltage. This is a normal inverter pulsing pattern. Okay. This is a battery charger operating mode. It is a normal, you can consider the normal UPS household UPS charging pattern. It is quite similar. There are 3 modes of operation. Here it is. You can see it is a constant voltage mode and constant current mode, constant voltage mode. This is operating mode. Here, when you charge your battery at the very beginning, you could see the voltage is almost like a minimum voltage. I don't say it's a 0. It's not possible. It's a minimum voltage, and you have to maintain the high current to charge your capacitor. And after the voltage achieved at desired level, maybe 110 or 105, depends on your control algorithm. It has to vary your current or reduce your current to maintain the same voltage, and you have to monitor during this period. You have to monitor all the control parameter like your electrode. I would say electrode temperature and the electrode like the coolant temperature or a surface temperature, and all the parameters will be decided for this particular charging pattern. Once it is achieved, and it will be like operating mode, where you will connect most of the loads, and it will supply your all the 110 volt control relay or logic circuits. This is operating mode. Okay, here it will address more detail about your question, how it is operating. Battery charger redundant mode. This one you can consider again. Maybe I'm saying like Chennai Metro because most of you well known about Chennai Metro. Maybe you can consider Kochi Metro also. Kochi Metro, it is a 3-car configuration with the 2 battery charger system. For example, the second battery charger failed. This circuit failed. I am not able to charge my battery in the 3rd car, or maybe the 4-car configuration. Maybe 2 car can be supplied with 1 battery charger, and another 2 car can be supplied with another battery charger. If second 3 and 4 car accelerator converter got failed, and it's not possible to charge my 110 volt control supply, and this is called a redundant mode. In this redundant mode, I should get a supply from my the first battery charger or first accelerator converter, and it will be like normal mode of operation. It is charging my battery in the 1 and 2 car. For the 3rd and 4th car, which is failed and it is isolated isolated due to the fault condition, and you can see it is charged through my changeover conductor here, and it will be converted into DC, and it is charging through my battery charging system. This is a redundant mode operation if one of the charger got isolated or one of the charger got failed. It's a specific requirement from customer. Any question in this? Okay, I'll go to the next mode of operation. This is emergency mode. Consider the previous mode of operation. The second one is got isolated. Maybe in this case, the complete catenary is out. I'm not getting the main supply from here, so it is completely isolated. How I can survive? For example, in this case, maybe if you're a pantograph or you're not getting the overhead supply to your train. In Chennai Metro, maybe the 25 kilovolt catenary system. If unfortunately due to some failure of pantograph or failure of your maybe breaker, input breaker, your maybe it's isolation of the breaker or the pantograph got failed or it is burned out, you're not getting the catenary voltage here. So you're not able to charge your 110 volt here. Maybe if it is stuck somewhere in the middle of the track, and you maybe if it is stuck in the underground, this will be like life-threatening situation. So in this situation, it will be like a complete blackout. If train you're not able to open the doors because the door needs some control supply, it is completely blackout, and which will need some control algorithm to actuate the door, or manually you can pull the door with some lever. It is available near to the door. In this particular situation, all the passenger cannot be evacuated immediately. So during that situation, the failure mode or emergency mode, that auxiliary, some of the auxiliary important auxiliary load which will be supplied from the 110 volt DC, the battery voltage, it will be converted into the emergency inverter, and it will be feeding most of the emergency ventilation system. For example, the AC definitely for sure it won't work. It need more power rating, so it will run only the ventilation system. So maybe the some of the few lighting system it will be operating. The emergency light it will operate, and the ventilation fan it will operate with this 110 volt. But it is limited, and during the time all the passengers should be evacuated from the train. This is mainly for the emergency mode. Any question in this circuit or? Okay, I'll move to the next one. This is a last section. This is a future power electronics technology in battery charging system. So most of you know that currently we are using IGBT, which is a silicon devices, and most of the power electronics semiconductor will be silicon devices. And this is the most advanced one, and it will be more compact, and I would say it's less power losses compared to the silicon one. The silicon carbide and gallium nitride technology, which will be evolving one, and you might have known a few of the train in Japan. They have tested with the silicon carbide traction converter and silicon carbide battery charger. So this is the most advanced technology in the semiconductor world. And by going with the silicon carbide and gallium nitride MOSFET, you can able to reduce your converter or inverter size, and also losses will be very less, and you can go for the higher switching frequency, and it will be like a cost effective. Maybe down the line, not immediately, maybe now it is very costly compared to the silicon devices. Maybe going forward it will be like if it is readily available or based on the availability, the cost will be decided. This is a future technology of this one, and maybe you can go to this link where you can find how they tested with the silicon carbide traction converter, and how they tested with the silicon carbide battery charging system. Yeah, I'm done with the presentation. If you have any question, you can raise it now. This is my contact detail. You can contact me if you have any doubts or any other support. And I can open to question and answer session. We can utilize this time for the question and answer. Any question in the presentation or complete overall battery circuit? Okay, I'm just reading some of the question. It's typed in the chat box. Yeah, inductor sizing, as I said, like this one is we will be doing the simulation before designing the hardware, and it will be calculated with our software through MATLAB and some of the specific software for Alstom. We have a calculation sheet. We will calculate that inductor using two-stage. As I said, it's a redundant operation. It's a specific to customer, and most of the application will be like a single stage conversion. Okay. Sorry, Harsha, I didn't get your question. Harsha, I didn't get your question. Can you please elaborate a bit? Okay. Maybe. Oh, sorry.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, Harsha. Yeah.
Hello. Sir, this is actually apart from your presentation. This question is apart from your presentation, sir. This is my query actually, sir. I actually know the actual course. Can I say it is apart from this presentation actually?
Yeah. You can ask. If I know, I tell you.
Sir,
Yeah.
Sir, how do we convert a voltage like sir 0.3 volt AC to DC with the help of diode rectifier? Because in that time actually the voltage is below the cutoff voltage or threshold voltage from diode.
Yeah.
Yeah. How sir convert? How we convert this type of voltage? So is there any technology or any?
I think that's what when we said that 0.7, maybe there should be logic behind the 0.7, the forward voltage drop, because in electrical world you cannot design the 100% correct electrical system or voltage level. Every voltage level has some tolerances, and 0.5, I would say it's a tolerance voltage limit. I think it is very difficult to design a semiconductor to work on 0.5 or 0.3 volt back to or some high voltage level. Again, it is an evolving technology. I'm not personally aware of it, and definitely it will be a big challenge to design the semiconductor for 0.3 or 0.5 voltage.
Okay.
Okay, just typed it. Okay. I can share the presentation to Professor Lada ma'am. Maybe you can get it from her.
Okay.
Okay, any other question? Maybe it's out of topic or related to the railway domain or some other topic.
Any other questions?
It's open. Anything you can ask.
If there is no questions, we will wind up the session.
Books. Okay. I used to refer Ned Morgan for power electronics topics. Okay. Okay. If you do not have any question, maybe we can wind up the session.
Okay, sir. Thank you all. Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your valuable knowledge with us, sir, and for readily accepting our invitation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thanks to all.
Can you share your email ID so that the participants can place?
Yeah, you can note down my email ID. You can drop me an email if you have any question. It's my first name, Thiruvarul.ganesan@gmail.com. Or you can contact me through